and it granted existing ones a one-time move, not out, or without limited by the density limits. Right now, they had to be 3,000 feet away. There's been some additional discussion about allowing some of the current tattoo shops that are on Lurleen Boulevard, there's 2 of them right now, to be able to move within that C3 zone just on Lurleen as well as is C6. This language does. It limits or gives them existing parlors, only 3 in the entire city right now. 2 on McFarland and 1 on, 1 on McFarland, 2 on Lurleen, and this would give the ones on Lurleen a move on Lurleen or back in C6 McFarland.
All right. So really, even without this proposed change or language change, they're allowed a one-time move, correct? Anyway, inside their same zone.
No, they're allowed a one-time move onto McFarland C6
Okay.
zone, notwithstanding the density bar.
Okay. All right. And I think council has reviewed some of the language you and our legal department have been working on regarding it. And I think there was a request in our pre-meeting to suspend the rules to consider it immediately, Ron. And again, just for public purposes, can we get just the whitewashed kind of quickly as far as tattoo density language? I know it was pretty lengthy, but can you give us?
Yes, so the bottom line is that this does strengthen our ordinance. It allows a one-time move in a particular area along Lurleen Wallace. And so by allowing this move, it would in effect extend the radius to include the 2 shopping centers, which would prevent another tattoo parlor from coming in on the 2 shopping centers at the intersection of 82 and 69. So,
all right, thank you.
and we saw no reason not to suspend the rules. I think we've made it as tight as we possibly can to allow this one move to happen. And it would broaden the protected area along Lurleen Wallace as well.
Thank you, Ron. Is there a motion to suspend the rules in order to immediately consider the amending the Northport City Code pertaining to the one-time move for tattoo parlors?
I'll make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan?
Yes.
President Logan?
Yes.
Councilman Hogg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the text amendment with rules being suspended? Is there a motion to adopt the text amendment to the regulated businesses and the ordinances allowing tattoo parlors at one-time move within their current zones?
Make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
President Logan?
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
882 is a first reading of a resolution accepting maintenance for municipal public improvements on sidewalks in Hidden Meadows, Phase 4. Mr. Webb.
Yes, President Logan, this is for the sidewalks at Hidden Meadows Phase 4 is the newest section of the subdivision. They've completed, been inspected, and ready for city acceptance.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to, excuse me, is that first reading? So I guess anybody want to offer that up for a first reading?
I'll offer that.
That's offered up by Councilman Hogg. 8B1 is a resolution amending our general fund budget. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. As we discussed earlier, this involves both the general fund budget and secondly, you'll be also looking at the water and sanitary sewer budget. A little bit of background again. What we have done over the past few weeks is look at amending your current budget that you approved for the fiscal year 2018. The main reason that we wanted to amend the budget was kind of a twofold thing. The first reason was because we had certain items that were either going to underrun significantly or overrun a little bit, and the overruns were really items that were geared toward repairs and things of that nature. We went in and did that. The second reason that we wanted to look at amending the budget was we were kind of holding off on making capital purchases because we were a little up in the air on what our communication requirements were going to be as we move forward with the E911 center. That was in the tune of really several $100,000 maybe. So we were working through the requirements that we'd be putting forth on that. That number was finalized a couple of weeks ago. So we were able to move forward and look at items for purchase throughout your 2018 budget that was previously approved. Bottom line, your original budget on general fund was $20,993,587.83. The amendment to the budget that we are asking you to consider tonight is $21,419,544.38. What this includes is approximately $469,000 in capital purchases. Just as a reminder to you, it's on the back page of your information. These are items toward public works, such as mowers that we need there, police as far as motorcycles, vehicles, certain items for the fire department. Of course, the E911 center is included in this. That ended up being $68,600. That may move a little, but it's approximately $70,000. So all of these items are included for your consideration on approving the amendment to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Higginbotham. Is there a member? I know Councilman Sullivan, I know you're chairman of finance. I don't know if you wanted to add on to what Mr. Higginbotham wanted to present.
No, I mean, I think y'all felt comfortable in the pre-meeting, other than, you know, your total numbers, 21 million is based on 9 months, not 12. So I always remind you guys of that. Again, we'll start the 19 budget here very, very quick. So other than that, I appreciate April and Bruce's work and all the department heads for their input. And it's a good budget. I'm looking forward to finishing up the next one.
Good deal. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving our general fund budget amendment 18-01 regarding the reallocation and distribution of the currently budgeted items?
Move to approve.
That's a motion by Councilman Sullivan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Hogg?
Yes.
President Logan?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Second item is a resolution amending our water and wastewater fund budget. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This is generally following the same description I gave to you before for the general fund. I do want to point out for both of the budgets, we are, although we're amending them, if you look at what we projected last year for what we are doing, we're generally where we thought we would be, and that's good news. So that's something for you to consider. Looking at the water and sewer budget, your original budget that you looked at was $7,630,417.21. The proposed budget with the amendments that you will be looking at tonight and then the reallocations is $7,443,847.66. So in reality, the budget actually went down a little. We've went ahead and lowered some items that we were definitely going under budget on. So that's good news. The capital purchase that we're making for water and sewer is 5 water meter trucks. It's $100,000. This will replace all the trucks that we're currently using, and they are all in desperate need of repair. So this is good news.
Very good. Decreasing that budget on an amendment. That's saying something. It's very good. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving our water and wastewater budget amendment 18-01 regarding the reallocation and, of course, distribution of the currently budgeted items?
Move to approve, Mr. President.
That's a motion by Councilman Sullivan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
President Logan?
Yes.
Councilman Hogg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Consent agenda. Item C is 16 items. They range from minutes for the previous meeting, bill listings, travel and training, and of course our PO requisition for economic incentive through Northport Corners. This is one that's been on the books for quite some time, and it's a semi-annual payment. So again, is there a motion to approve our consent agenda as printed? I'll make that form of motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 9, reports of special committees to council. If any member of council or the mayor's office wanted to update us on our respective committees they represent. All right. Item 10, public hearings other than the ones we had by virtue of resolution requests. We have none on the agenda. Item 11, city administrator's business. Mr. Higginbotham.
No, sir, I have no business.
Item 12, departmental business. We have one out of our legal department, Mr. Davis, claim number 18-58.
Yes, Mr. President, the Claims Committee recommends payment of this claim, the amount of $832.03. The city crews were mowing the median and they hit a rock and it damaged the door of a vehicle, and this is the lowest of 3 estimates to repair that damage. So we recommend payment. But it's coming to the council only because it's over $500.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve that claim 18-58 in the amount of $832.03?
Move to approve.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 13 is public comment. We have a few citizens signed to speak. I'll start, and I think Mr. Newell, I think you actually, did you want to speak again, or if you wanted, I know you're on the, please come forward and state your name and address for the record again.
My name is William Nowell. I live at 5217 Northwood Lake Drive West. Ordinances. Are there any penalties for people who break an ordinance more than once? I mean, you know, is it just a slap on the wrist or a letter to them and that's it? If they keep doing it, if they do it again?
I guess it depends on the ordinance, and I know I'm speaking from the layperson position, Ron. Speeding ordinance, I guess you would get a ticket.
This is letting silt run into Northwood Lake.
Okay. That's a
And
little different.
It happened, I'm not sure exactly when. I guess, do you keep records of this?
We do normally,
When
and
they are reported and stuff?
yes, sir. Normally what we do, and again, I don't want to speak out of turn from staff, but normally what happens is when, let's say, somebody does construction or something, our engineering staff and, of course, planning get together, and there's some permitting, some other things that person needed to do through city channels to get approval to even put silt fence down, and our staff will keep up with that particular piece of property in terms of, let's say, silt fence falls down
Yeah.
indirectly, not intentionally. So that's something where we'll come in and staff will work with that property owner to kind of make the needed adjustments to it. I think that's what you're asking.
Well, yes, but see, I'm not sure exactly when it happened. Mr. McKinney was the ordinance guy back then.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, he's got about a 45, 50 degree slope to the lake. He went in there and dug it all up and stuff. Next thing you knew, we had rain and it washed in the lake.
Yeah, I think
I reported it, and Mr. McKinney got him straightened out about what he should have done. But you put one there. In other words, he should have got a permit to do what he did to the back of his property, tear it up like that, and
based on what you're saying to me, and I know our staff or department head, Mr. Stevens, kind of gave me an update on it right before our meeting today. Our code enforcement officer, I know Officer McKinney's probably not our code enforcement officer now.
it's Mr. Carroll.
That's right, and they did go out and they did notice that, so I think they're working with the property owner now to get that squared away.
Yeah, but I mean, he knew better because he done got in trouble. Well, I say in trouble, he got before, and then he turned right around and did the same thing.
Yes, sir.
He didn't put the fence in properly or anything. So that's why I say, should he have called the engineering department to come and look at it and say, yes, that's what you're supposed to do, put it 6 inches
Well,
under.
well, that would help. That would help, I guess, the communication of it. And of course, our code enforcement officer in his office would go by and make those type checks. So,
Yeah,
but we'll definitely, and again, if I've got the address from our planning department, so they're going to look into it. This was
Okay.
brought to our attention right before we got to our meeting here, so they're going to look into that.
all right, and one other thing, could we get a yield sign changed to a stop sign? Is there something you have to do? I don't know if you've ever been on Northwood Lake Drive West, but it V's once you get around the fingers, it'll V off to the right. People coming off that hill have right of way. And most of the time, they're doing 35, 40 miles an hour when they get down to the bottom of that hill. I think that should be a 3-way stop instead of the yield. I mean, you want to slow people up Northwood Lake anyway, 'cause they drive like a bunch of idiots. No, hey, I'm serious, they do. And it's just like I asked the officer, I wish somebody on the board would call the county bus drivers, boss, and ask them if they would tell the Northwood Lake Drive bus drivers 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
There's
Because
another issue, Mr.
I hate
Chairman.
to say it, but they're just as bad as some of the people that drive out there.
I know where you're talking about, the
And,
Northwood Lake Drive.
Hey, I
It used
stopped.
to be 2 stop signs there and a
Yeah.
yield sign at one time.
Yeah.
We'll check into it.
'Cause I stopped, because like I say, somebody doing 50 miles an hour, if you don't look to make sure they ain't coming off that hill, they'll hit you in them. And I think there's been several wrecks there. Yeah. All right, that's all thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Our next citizen is Mr. Tim Beasley. Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Please state your name and address for the record.
Tim Beasley, and I live at 5605 Clearbrook Drive, which is in the Buckhead subdivision. I want to thank council for allowing me a chance to speak. First, I want to tell you that I just appreciate all the work that Holly done in engineering, trying to help me with a problem I got, and I've been talking to Mr. Hogg also. The problem I got is I've lived in Buckhead at the same house for 32 years. I got a letter from my mortgage company the first week of June that I had been put in a flood zone. Now, if somebody can tell me where the water's coming from or what would cause a flood where I live, I more or less got a ditch behind my house instead of a creek. 'Cause that water don't, when we had all the rain out there at the university, rained 5-6 inches, you could have still put your son's shoes on and walked down that ditch. So there's no water there. So what I'm trying to get the city to do, and it's what my engineer told me, done a survey, is to get the city to do a base flood elevation study to where he can do his readings off of that. My engineer tells me that the city needs to do it, and the city's telling me that the engineer needs to do it. You know, and I do appreciate the city keeping that grass cut back there, and I know it, you know, it does run in between quite a while, but, 'cause I kept that ditch cut for 20 years, every other week on account of keeping it from growing up, but, and Councilman Hogg knows that flood insurance on a homeowner is about $3,000 a year on top of your regular policy.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, they want full replacement value of your house, but luckily with mine through Alabama One, all they want is the total value of what your loan is. So I'm not down but about $1,500, but I got neighbors living around me that's paying an extra $3,000 a year for flood insurance.
They
put
you in the highest zone.
That's
Well,
what I'm saying, and
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why I'm in a zone A when there's no water there. I know several years ago, before Walmart was built, there was a flood elevation study done, and that flood boundary was moved to the ditch that runs north and south in Buckhead where the circle is when you turn in there. Well, the engineer told me as long as you pass 500 foot away from that flood boundary, then you shouldn't be affected. But on the east side of Harper Road, when you come in, where all that backwater comes in there from Mill Creek, which it don't never cross Harper Road because it's just backwater and it's clogged up there, so I don't never have no water in that ditch. I've got I've got it pulled up on my Google map on my phone now, and I can show you a picture of the ditch, and it's more dirt than what it is anything. And even if it does come a heavy rain, that ditch has got just gray mud in it, and the water just soaks down in it, so there's no water there. So I guess what I'm asking the city, can we get some help out there to do a base flood elevation or talk to FEMA? Or I don't know who to contact. I've tried to do what I can to get us out of that base flood elevation. They tell me that room on the back of my house, the flood line runs right through there, and they say that if any part of that water or that flood zone touches your property, then you're automatically considered in a flood zone A. But it don't, the flood line, from what my surveyor told me, don't cover the whole house. Well, I don't feel like my whole house should be in a flood zone A if it ain't gonna flood the whole thing. And then I read on the internet where FEMA says that the average homeowner's insurance is $700 a year. Well, somebody can find me some for $700 a year, I'd be glad to purchase it. So.
They don't tell you it's in in zone A, I can tell you that, maybe zone X, but.
Well, I'm just saying, you know,
Hey, Mr.
I'd like
Beasley,
some help from the city because there's no water in the ditch. And, Mr. Marshall over here can tell you, he's lived across the road from me. There's no water in that ditch.
I think, Bruce, I think when Mr. Beasley is speaking to staff, of course, their staff is basically saying that he needs to list a base elevation on the certificate, on the flood certificate, and his professional guy that's doing this for him has stated that the city needs to request that. So we've got the back and forth of responsibility of who's supposed to do that. So I think that's where Mr. Beasley's trying to get some answers, is exactly where we need to go with this and who's going to be responsible for doing that, and trying to figure out where he needs to go next with.
Well, the engineer's
Talking to
telling
FEMA or
me that
whoever.
the city should do the base flood elevation for him to do his survey on, because the ditch belongs to the city of Northport.
Hmm.
So that's where he's coming from with that, you know. And he said he couldn't do it till Northport established a base flood elevation.
You
And-
have to have that on your elevation certificate to get the required
Well, he
insurance
has
as
to have
well,
that
too.
base flood elevation to determine if it could actually be lowered in the flood zone, is my understanding, to
Right.
get it out of that flood zone A. Now,
All right.
that's the worst you can get right there.
So now we've got professional engineer that works for you saying, hey, that's the city responsibility.
That's
And
right.
of course,
Yes, sir.
I don't recall us ever doing that, Ron. I don't know if because if we, that would mean we would have to start establishing base flood elevation for every single area in the city that's got, you know, if you're inside that flood zone area. So I don't, and that one, Mr. Beasley, I remember some other residents, maybe in other areas of the city, that had to get a surveyor and an engineer out to shoot an elevation at the slab, I'm assuming. I think that's the way it
Right.
works. And they apply for is it a LOA, or what is that called?
It's LOMA or something.
LOMA,
like that.
okay.
But I can't get my surveyor to do that because he says he don't have that base flood elevation.
Well, again,
You
I
see
don't.
where I'm standing?
Yes, sir, I understand.
Right.
I just was under the impression that the surveyor goes out and they shoots an elevation at your slab, maybe front door, and that's your set elevation, and that's part of the
That
LOMA
is your set
letter.
elevation for your survey for your house, but he's just said, he's trying to establish a base flood elevation, I guess, on what a base flood would be compared to what the elevation on my house is. I don't know how it works.
Yes, sir. I would
mean,
almost.
There's no water in the ditch.
I'm gonna defer to Mr. Higginbotham, but I'm almost under the impression that would be a professional service that your engineer would have to set that standard. I mean, set that elevation.
He and I have played phone tag
Oh, I know, you can't
What?
get up with him.
quite a few times, so
Right.
I'm still continuing to try every day to.
All right,
to
well,
do.
appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you.
Peyton, can you just get us the name?
Yes,
Holly may already know who he's using, but if not, let me know.
I've got his office number and his cell number.
Okay, and that way we can talk to him.
Because he also works for AlDOT, and he's got this surveying business more or less on the side.
Well,
Jamie Aldridge, who it is.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll get
Okay.
staff to contact him and maybe see if we can.
Thank you.
And
Give him
Mr.
a little
Beasley,
direction.
I'll be talking to you tomorrow on that
Okay,
too.
appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next citizen is Miss Kay Holden. Ms. Holden, good to see you again. Please
Thank
state your
you.
name and address for the record.
Kay Holden, 3010 Natchez Landing Court, Northwood Lake. I want to thank you all for letting me come out here and be before you today. We've already discussed this, it's already come up, but something I want to say is I am Vice President on Northwood Lake Board, and unfortunately, Rodney and Robbie, you got some unhappy people out here. The main reason seems to be, now I've only been on the board since March, but my dad was on that board for over 25 years off and on, just up until 4 years ago. With that, the biggest thing I'm hearing right now is Union Chapel. They're running Dove Creek. They're even running the signs within Northwood Lake Drive East, Northwood Lake Drive West. I have 6 specific intersections that is getting run on a constant basis. What we're asking for is speed tables. Can you give us a presence out there so y'all can find out what we're gonna do? Because we have to do something before somebody gets hurt, especially a child. I went out on the board, we purchased 8 signs that just said, please slow down, drive like your kids live here. Put them out. It did help. People are tapping the brakes, but they're not gonna tap those brakes for long. I'm gonna go ahead and erect a sign on private property, private sign that says school bus loading and unloading at the top of Union Chapel between Joshua and Kennebec. Because there's a woman that lives there with a child that gets on and off the bus, and she said she doesn't know how many times she's seen cars skid to a stop behind the school bus. And her granddaughter's starting to school this year and will be living there. So I went to Lieutenant Marks and I asked, is it legal for me to put up a private sign on private property that says school bus loading, unloading? He said, well, it's not enforceable. And I said, well, nobody's enforcing the speed limit out there right now, so